welcome to the next series in the Teaching and Technologies presentation, and there's a sign-in sheet that's going around. We really want to keep record of who's coming to our seminars just for planning purposes, so if you could please sign in. And we have 2 more to go that's remaining for the rest of the semester. The next one is on, is 2 weeks from now, and then there's one more 2 weeks later. So we'll wrap up the series end of this month. Today we're very fortunate to have Maurizio Forte, who is a professor of World Heritage in Shaw, and he will be talking about Second Life. As a lot of you know, it's become a phenomenon in a lot of ways in higher ed with Second Life. So today he's going to show you some of what he's doing. And I was asking him before the presentation, like how he got started in this, and he experimented with a lot of different 3D virtual world engines, and I guess this is the one that he found the most useful and the most interactive. So thank you for coming. We look forward to hearing more from you.
My pleasure. I want to introduce also Nicola Dell'Unto. Dr. Dell'Unto is instructor also in Second Life and collaborated in many scientific projects with us. I based the presentation of a slideshow for the first part, and the second part will be interactive. I like to focus the presentation not just on Second Life as social networking, but on the capacity to transmit, to communicate information concerning the past using different collaborative environment. And I think it's interesting for you to see and to compare examples and experiments we are doing here at the University of California, Merced. If you enjoy the experience in Second Life, but we don't discuss about how we reconstruct models, how we can validate models, I think that we miss a part of the work. So I consider the past a simulation process. This is the first, I think, important topic I want to discuss with you. We cannot really reconstruct the past, so we know it's not possible, but we can simulate it. And I like to talk about potential past, so that what we do in Second Life as well is to improve some reconstruction, comparing reconstruction and processes, and with showing the capacity of the user to discover models, cultural content, and different interaction. So I like to talk about potential past because potential reconstruction. So the validation process depends, at least the scientific validation process, on the relationship we create between present and past society. In cybernetics, the map is not the territory, so we create codes for transmitting information. A very short example of a 3D ontology of archaeological sites. This important monument still exists in Rome, in an archaeological park, the Museum of Nigeria, so dated the 2nd century AD. And this is you look, it's a very old print, very romantic view, but not really scientific. This is the pictures I took in 2003, same monument, with of course less vegetation, not so romantic, but of course much more detailed and full of information about the state of conservation of the monument. This is the laser scanner model, taken in 2004. Same monument, same site, same location, so that we have this visualization comes from 3D Studio Max. Most part of our students take classes in 3D Max for learning how to model that kind of monuments. So this situation is it represents how the laser scanner can reconstruct the monument with a laser ray. And this is a possible or potential reconstruction of the Roman Inferno in the 2nd century, how we assume it was in the Roman times. So this is the result of an interdisciplinary team of archaeologists and architects and computer scientists. I cannot say this is the only possible reconstruction, and I don't like to convince people this is the best. I want to convince that this is one of the potential reconstruction. If you don't compare models, if you don't analyze processes, we cannot approach correctly cyber archaeology. I finally go to the main topic of the presentation, so Second Life. I'm delighted to inform you that this activity here was awarded by a grant, a UCCP grant, so that we received an award for that, and together we presented the result of this work 2 weeks ago in Santa Cruz, and all the committee was enthusiastic about the result of this project, but I can say that we are at the beginning of the experiment. In January 2008, as soon as I was here, moving from Italy to the middle of California, I convinced the dean to purchase a virtual island, so that the name is the Heritage Island, so UCM Heritage Island. If you want to seek the island using the engine, search engine in Second Life, you can put this name, this title. And the island is used with different purposes in different courses. It's the core of the course Cyber Heritage, and we will use in the late part of the course on reconstructing ancient world, and it's used also in the introduction to world heritage. Our work is based on participatory learning. So what is participatory learning? It's a way to involve people through avatars, through virtual representation in a 3D cyberspace, and involving them to take action, to have feedback, to discuss, to share, to understanding different contents, and to provide also content, because this activity is not just passive but also active. How we can improve this activity? I think stressing the capacity of the system to host models, but also working in team. So this is one of the first, I think, important activity, and I think Nicola can show something also later about the working team we do here. So classes participate not just navigating or walking, but also offering and contributing with content, 3D content. The second activity we are developing is on 3D web, collaborative environment online. And the last one, now we are at the beginning, but we already made some experiment at the Power Wall, a few meters far from here. So that the Power Wall is an immersive virtual reality system based on motion capture, motion triggers, and now is able to host also virtual heritage content. I give you a very short overview of some project that we are developing in a collaborative environment. This is the case of an archaeological site in Oman. This is the case of Egypt. For example, here the different sphere represent the different users. So the user move the sphere inside and they can chat in 3D, and then they can, of course, exchange information about, for example, this kind of artifact, or this is the cloud point representing the tomb, this is the reconstruction of the tomb. Or here, like a virtual library. So it's a virtual library recreated in computer graphic where we have different users, again, here represented by, in this case, we didn't use avatar, we have used a sphere. So there, of course, we experiment in different metaphors for this kind of collaborative activities. It depends on what is the final purpose. This purpose is the interpretation, the discussion about the interpretation process in cyber archaeology across scientific community. So it's not for, it's just for experts, not for general public. So in that case, the avatar for us is not important, but it's important the action we have in the 3D cyberspace. Here we are inside an Egyptian tomb in Luxor. What's important here in the discussion? That all the team able to reproduce, reconstitute this kind of virtual content go to the field to take the data. So there's not just a virtual activity. We go to Egypt, we took the data with a bilaser scanner. We bring the data here, we reprocess the data, we share the data with scientific communities and some of them with students for training. So it's a long pipeline. It's not just virtual or digital, but it comprehends also an important field. Here, for example, is a discussion about maps in the 3D space, maps and here artifacts, 3D artifacts. It's an archaeological site here in Oman. It's a Roman city of Korori, and again the virtual library. So here, for example, there are users chatting in the 3D. Why I'm showing you also something out of Second Life? Because I think the future will be, I think, full of different social networks. So that now we have a big platform. You know, the Second Life has millions of users and visitors, but we expect to have more activities through collaborative environments, not just in Second Life, but also in similar kinds of environment. The case study we use in Second Life, so that if you go there, and I will with you, but if you go there, you will see that the core of the experiment was the reconstruction of the Roman villa. So it's not just a villa, it was a villa, a famous villa of the spouse of Emperor Augustus, and the villa is, I think, a very important experiment showing the capacity to reconstruct monuments in the 3D cyberspace, but also to have some kind of interactions and learning using multimedia platform inside Second Life. For example, movies, slideshow, PowerPoint presentation, and others, so that some performances are possible inside that kind of environment. I'll give you some example of the reconstruction of the villa using computer graphics. For example, our student during the lab session start to learn how to reconstruct models. There are some of them here, for example. And this is the case of the Villa of Livia and by computer graphics. It's important to compare the different platforms because, for example, this result is not possible. This kind of rendering, graphic rendering, is not possible in Second Life because in Second Life we have to save for many reasons. Capacity, scripting, programming, models, band, and so on. But it's important to know that this kind of snapshots are very useful in terms of comparison, in terms of graphic rendering representing some kind of reconstruction inside the villa itself, so that you will see some of them inside the villa as 3D graphic reconstruction using different kind of engine, like this one, for example, is based on 3D Studio Max, a software 3D model. I'll show you some examples. Here is the same villa inside the Powerball, here, so that you use a Powerball also, and Powerball is an immersive virtual reality system in a specific room equipped here because of NSF grant. So this activity is based on a strong collaboration with the team of Professor Kalman, the School of Engineering. You know that this activity is very multidisciplinary, so it's, at least an example is, are you here, so that student and colleagues coming from different disciplines and collaborating together in humanities, computer science, anthropology, philosophy, cognitive science, and so on. So this is the same villa you will see in Second Life, but with another kind of rendering, matching the requirements of an immersive system like the Powerwall is. I think that we can have maybe another experiment, if you like, in the close future in the Powerwall, so that we can continue our discussion in the Powerwall, so that we can compare different outputs. How we reconstruct the past using a network, a 3D networking system like Second Life, another collaborative environment, another immersive system. We share the same data, but between different platforms and different graphic output. This is the island. So in the Second Life, I don't want to spend so much by slide because I think that's better if you go there. walking, and with Nicole also when we start our visiting experience. So I like this slide because I think I think it can explain very well how we have split more or less. Of course, there are no borders, virtual borders, but the activity of research in a part of the island, the activity of visualization, and the activity with students. Of course, any activity has change and mutual interaction with the others, with the other activities. But it's important to know that the island, the virtual island, is not like a static monument. It's a theater, so that we improve experiments, disassembling virtually monuments and reconstruction and reassembling according to the training, according to the need, of course, of the course of the experience. For example, we have some multimedia platform here able to host some metadata, for example, movies, or cyber reconstruction, like here is the case of the Villa of Libya. And finally, a cyberspace where we have a representation of the archaeological site, how the site is today. You will see a big difference between the reconstruction and the site. People, and also today, visiting the site do not understand anything about the site because they don't have the code for understanding. So they see this just there are ruins, but they don't understand that this was a Roman villa, was a monument, was decorated, was full of statues on the gardens, of vegetations, and so on. This is the IGMO. IGMO is the multimedia platform created because of the grant. So the grant was requiring to create a multimedia platform inside the virtual island in order to involve students and visitors in a narrative experience. Narrative means that even if I don't touch anything in a virtual island, I put myself in front of the virtual screen, I have a virtual storytelling. So if you click on the movie, you have an avatar talking with you, or a virtual character explaining where you are, what we are doing, what kind of content, what kind of archaeological information you will find inside. And the comparison between the archaeological site and the contemporary landscape. So, in short, any multimedia platform inside the 3D cyberspace can host different metadata and data like pictures, 3D panels, text, and so on. It's a sort of a 3D library where you can upload many different content. This kind of activity, we think, is very important for involving visitors, involving learning experiences through the reconstruction. So we cannot just put the reconstruction in the 3D cyberspace without any captions, any facilities. Otherwise, every user can be disappointed in a very short time because there's nothing able to communicate something. But the core of the activity, and we'll show in even some movies, the core of the activity is the interaction between people, the communication factor. This is a very important, and I think it's very promising for the future, development of the island. This is one of the tremendous work Nicolò did inside the virtual island, the parametric reconstruction of the villa. This is not just a virtual monument. It is a measured monument, so that you can check centimeter by centimeter the size, because it's based on scientific data. So there's a big difference, because if you do a reconstruction, you can spend even a few hours and you have something, but it's not related with real information. It's not validated. It's not certified. So it's just a monument, a virtual monument. In this case, it's a parametric model. So any avatar can be embodied. We use the term embodiment for explaining the experience of immersion in the cyberspace In this case of embodiment, you can calculate the scale of your avatar and your experience inside. So this is very helpful. Here is the avatar in front of the movie, but I think that we can see it later. And of course, we can have avatar communicating between avatar and avatar communicating with a virtual character by computer graphic. So there are different experiences in the free cyberspaces. Their communication is between people, I mean real people through avatars, because in the Second Life you can have you can use mic, so that you have use the mic, you have the voice in the 3D space, and the distance between the voice and voice is like in the reality. So that if I'm here, you can hear me. You can hear me less. It's like it's exactly like we can do in the cyberspace. So this, I think, this kind of realism. Sorry if I move from the camera. Different kind of realism, and I forgot. Time to stay here. But this kind of realism can improve the sense of place. I'm in the cyberspace, I'm talking with other avatars, I'm communicating, and so on. And we had interesting experiences. This is an example of a PowerPoint presentation and in the same time movies. I mean PowerPoint like here, so you can click in the 3D cyberspace and then you have a slideshow, or you can click here and you have a movie. Or you can have another kind of simulation. So that it's a totally, not totally, but it's a very open space for experimenting multimedia in the 3D. Here we have the general planimetry of the villa with the main architectural elements, so like the Republican Garden, the Peristelium, the Atrium, and the Triclinium. This is very common in any imperial villa, so that I think that's very helpful for the student to understand how the ancient Romans were thinking. Architectural spaces, architectural plans, and as well the use of materials, plaster, decorations, colors, and so on. This is the, we can talk later about this multidisciplinary research and education palace. I can say palace because you can go there and you can experiment didactic, you can interact with didactic information inside. It's a sort of virtual museum of the virtual villa. It's very helpful because it's a sort of virtual library, so you can catch some additional information, readings, and so on. And you can also. This is, I think, it's a nice movie. We get during the course. For example, so this is a typical training, so that you have some of you are very familiar, some other possibly now, but we are here in the library, so the KL232 in the lab, so that every student in front of the workstation can, of course, interact with the instructor, so that in this case, Nicolò is the instructor, and there are students that are represented by virtual avatars in the cyberspace. So that they run as an avatar, and through the avatar, you can walk in the cyberspace, and they have principally two ways of communication. They can chat typing, or they can use the voice. It depends on the experiment, depends on the session. So that, of course, chatting has a less impact in the 3D cyberspace, but it's less realistic, I can say. And talking, of course, is much more realistic, but of course it creates some confusion in some way. So that it depends on the user of the cyberspace we have during the lab session. Then the student can work also in teams, so that they can create small teams for constructing 3D content, for analyzing the content, for taking notes of the experiments, and so on. So I think it's very interesting, this kind of exchange between the instructors and the student, between the student and the student. We are also experimenting through questionnaires, thanks to the collaboration with the group of cognitive scientists, the result of this experience, so that maybe in a few weeks or a couple of months we can have the final result of this, the statistical result of the questionnaire, so that we can see, we can measure really how was the impact on this kind of training. So what they can learn through cyberspace, what they can learn through the interactions and the communication. Of course, this experience is in the lab, but it can continue also out of the lab. This is important because if you are registering in Second Life, you have an avatar, then you can create additional experiments or workshop or activities. It was very interesting, for example, to invite students from Europe. We had a very another interesting cyber conference or cyber workshop with students from different countries. So it's very interesting to say. Apart the time zone, I think it's possible to have people from different parts of the world with different background, with different cultural experiences, and so on. So, in short, that we share 3D model, historical document, and virtual information. This experiment was made last semester, with the Italian National Research Council. They organized a summer school in archaeology, and we had here inside our virtual heritage island this kind of workshop, and we students participated from both sides, so from California and from Europe. For example, I'm here, and here we have the public chat and the voice. In this case, I use the voice. We participated to an international conference here, organized by the University of Chicago, so that here we have the presentation of the work done here. You see them in the virtual theater of the University of Chicago. This is very common in the Second Life. We have a very famous university like Columbia or Stanford or Harvard or Cambridge, Maine. But the most important thing is that for us, and I think for any university, is not the creation of the cyberspace, but the creation of activities, the performance inside. So this, I think, is the crucial part of the work: training, feedback, and performances. What about the future? So that I just 2 slides about the future development in Second Life. Is after Second Life, for example, if we take data from the field, when we elaborate data using 3D modeling or computer vision or photogrammetric techniques, then we can have different 3D environments, Second Life or the power wall. For example, we have different output we have the original one. This is the virtual human, or then also the human. So this is another very important, I think, activity for the future, not related with, or not yet related with Second Life. Because of the restriction we have right now, it's not possible, but it's possible in the power wall to have a motion capture system or tracking system enabled to have virtual humans collaborating in the free cyberspaces. So that this is very helpful for the scientific community, also for training and research. So people interacting with the representation of the body and of the actions in the 3D cyberspace. And this is our power wall, and we have 2 students interacting with a representation, simulation of earthquakes in the world, so that it's very common. But it's just a starting point. Let me go to the Second Life. I'm here. Oh, I have another avatar. I've changed it. Yes, I changed look and the avatar.
Wow.
So yes, that's okay. Since I can, so that I want to stress the capacity of the system, that I have more power now because of my new dress and.
I'll show you a serious style.
So, for example, here, so that we are inside the virtual heritage island and inside the villa as well, so that you see there are some screen here. I can you can activate the movies automatically, or can
You come too. Explore this wonderful garden. And excuse me if I don't pay much attention, but I have a lot of work to do today. The wife of the emperor is very particular about her roses. And there,
So this is an example, so that you can touch the screen and you have a computer graphic movie. Computer graphic movie is based on virtual storytelling, so you have virtual character talking about the villa. For example, this is the gardener, you have the painter, you have the emperor, you have the spouse of the emperor. It's very, I think, interesting to have the characters. What happens? Ah, okay, you have. Oh my God, there's.
Come on.
Ah, okay, okay. So this we have. This is a problem of you have different size. You have what?
No, I am the right size.
Okay, you're the right size. I'm super. Okay. So what? And inside every single virtual space, we have computer graphics, moving computer graphics. Every movie represents a different kind of storytelling. And we have the ICMO, like I have shown you before. So the multimedia cyberspace one again.
Sorry.
And I think that. Okay, this is the one of the reconstruction that is based on it's a part of the virtual museum. So that is I think the upper part of the virtual museum.
Yeah.
I think that if we fly, because this is one of the capacity is in the Second Life, is that we can use power not actually existing in the reality, not yet at least. I suggest that we could visit the site.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah.
Because look, this is the site. Unfortunately, the site is this representation is very close to the reality. So today, if you go to go to Rome, so that you want to visit the site, you have a situation like that: horrible roof covering everything, and a lot of pillars, so that you can see. You have a lot of restriction, a lot of troubles in the real visit. So you cannot enjoy, but you cannot understand also the monument. So if you see, if someone wants to convince the visitor that this was an imperial villa, you can understand the difficulties. So they try to figure out how the villa was, but it's quite impossible. Look, so this is the real one. I mean, the real, what exists today, and the other is the virtual one. So there's a big difference between the two, of course, of the two reconstruction. Yeah, maybe it's better. And that one is
It's better. Yeah.
you prefer, and it's better for you, or do you prefer the lighting?
It's much more better.
Okay, so that you have the virtual museum or the learning, I can say the learning palace there, and here we have the virtual reconstruction of the villa. You want to introduce us on the reconstruction so that we can have the last part of the discussion together?
So first of all, Second Life is important for us because we can find a place where we can upload all our projects, because usually in the project of cultural heritage for in virtual reality, what's happened is that we build system, and these systems are not used. So because we don't have place where show these things. Oops. Second Life is an opportunity for us because we can show this project, we can explain, meet other people, we can talk with them, we can present our data, we can have new ideas and so on. In this part, our purpose was, I made this part just for the students, because you have the 3D reconstruction, but you don't know how it looked like at the beginning, no? The excavation. Going in excavation, usually no one understands nothing. So it's impossible, also for an archaeologist. So the infrastructure, just in order to understand how it was, it's so full of words and aspects that are so far from our culture that it's impossible. You just see a very small wall and you don't know. But in this way, using a transparency level, could be possible, it's possible to perceive the space, to understand, and also to understand how terrible is this roof, how the creation of this roof absolutely interrupt the sensation of the perception of the full space. We are talking about a palace here, not just a normal roof, you know. In this way, it's possible to, you know, to suggest. Going in the real villa, what we did was to reconstruct partially the Villa di Livia, put inside a lot of movies, PowerPoint presentation, just in order to help the people to understand not the villa, of course, only the villa, but also how we could fix this idea of the villa, how we could represent the villa, how we interpret the villa, because that is important. So if I can tell you how I could create something, how I could represent, why I arrived to, you know, to make the villa in that way, you can understand how my brain works. You know, this is the interpretation process. This area is the research area. We are running this experiment, and the topic of the experiment is to understand how the transmission of the information changing the distribution of the information inside the place. Okay, where Maurizio is now is exactly the atrium of the villa. We change all the texture, and we upload inside exactly the same information that we have in the movies. That's very important because usually when the students make this experiment, after we give a questionnaire and they have to test, and we try to record how many information they could record inside. In the second floor, there is exactly the same situation, but with the computer graphic movies. The same information, but with a storytelling approach. And it's interesting because for every single floor, we run an experiment. And what are we trying to do is to create an ideal model for the transmission of the information to apply in the real world. Because what are we doing here is just create a 3D reconstruction of a normal museums. And we say, okay, because here we can simulate, because it's a simulation platform, first of all. The question is, can we study how to transform a museum in a learning place? Or in a place where the people really can understand, not just pass and try to read something. Because, you know, here we have a different way to learn. There is a symbolic a symbolic reconstructing way to learn. This is pretty complicated to apply for everybody, for everybody else, also in a normal museum. So, which kind of structure or infrastructure can we use? With Second Life, we can experiment. Yeah, we can run a lot of experiments and build new 3D models in order to increase or improve the performance of our museums. So it's interesting because it's like to jump in the cyberspace and come back in the real world, because this experiment is for the real world. So I mean, it's for us. So it's a very strong platform under this point of view. Another problem, of course, the Second Life is not perfect, no? There are many problems also in order of representation. I'm sure that talking with a group of engineering experts of computer graphics could be possible to plan a Second Life or a new Second Life very powerful in terms of behaviors and graphics. But what's the problem? The problem is that it's very complicated in both people. It's very complicated. So we use the success of Second Life just because in Second Life, so first of all, its characteristic is that the only one community world that is realized by this user. So the developer of Second Life, they did not realize nothing in 3D. They just provide the instruments, and the user, you know, start to build this world. So when people say, "Oh, Second Life is very poor," it's true, but it's because the society is poor of contents. So that's very interesting because we can approach in Second Life in a critical way or in a constructive way. We can say, okay, our mission with Second Life is, okay, why don't try to bring the people, to bring inside the communities different contents and to see what's happened. Maurizio Forte, I was talking about the events, how to create events. The event is the key, not the graphics. Because creating an event able to involve people to sharing data, like the conference before that. So it was incredible because you can talk and have a conference with a zero cost zero. Talking with the researcher, professor of other academy, of other university. And it's very interesting because the exchanging of data that you have is exactly the same. Of course, it is much more better to go there, to take a lunch, to drink a glass of wine with them. Of course, it's much more important sometimes. But, you know, how many how many new approach we can learn, how many information we can exchange without paying nothing. Just going in the cyberspace and meet someone. So that's probably the most important aspect, because with Second Life we have the opportunity and all the tools to present data, to upload models, and to talk with people. People invited because they represent a specific area of the research. With my students last semester it was very interesting because in class what I did was, okay.
The great hill that rises above the traveler.
Usually what we do is, part of the final is the presentation. Now for us it's very important that they are able to organize a PowerPoint and present it to the class. True. But if you are presenting a PowerPoint just to me and to your colleagues that are to your same level, it's not so... Yes, it's important, but what I did was, okay, we can upload your presentation, you build a building, a structure, in order to emphasize what are you talking about, and I'm going to invite the vice dean, researchers from Europe, people from other countries, and they will judge your work. So, you know, the level of, they were very nervous for that, and it was very good, because they was not simulating, because the real simulation was here, is with me and with their colleagues. That is fake. Is a simulating, but in the cyberspace, in a platform like that of simulation, there was not simulating, because in the other side there was a real professor, there was the real dean, you know, there was other students from other country, and it was amazing which kind of debate they had. So very discussion, very sometimes say, okay, calm, breathe, you know, control, because after there was because I suggest them also to make some a slide in order to provoke, you know, try, see what's happened. Now it was very interesting because the capacity to discuss, to debate, to work in order to was emphasized. So it was a great experience. Of course, not for the graphics, not for, but just for the possibility to create events. Second Life is an opportunity because really you can invite in a simple way people from everywhere. The 3D world, the problem is that's the graphic design, of the interface, because at the beginning it's not simple to understand every single button, how to move. So Second Life caused the great advertisement that he had during these months involved a lot of people, and now many people is able to use it. So I don't know if in the future there will be real platform, new platform. That's possible.
And partially from the start.
But it's not important to be able to use Second Life for another thing. It's important to enter in the idea that this is a way that's very, very, very powerful. So, and that's it.
I think yes. If you agree, so we can stop so that we can open for questions. So it's better because I know that we have to stay on time before. You agree, so that this way can. Maybe it's better. Like to you, so it's up to you. So maybe if you have questions, so that because there are so many things to say about this experience and. Quite impossible to show all the movies in computer graphics inside the island, because all the movies are about 90 minutes, so that not each one, but you want to have the complete tour. There are 12 movies, and every movie, of course, is related with some kind of discussion and reconstruction. For example, this Reconstruction, the movie is computer graphic, it's able to explain how we have reconstructed the villa in the landscape, so the relation between the villa and the ancient landscape is an example. And Yeah, but like Niccolo said, so that it's an open space, so it's not a urban plan or a city where you have a lot of computer graphics but without activities. So the focus is on the activity. So training in terms of feedback, and content providers are also the student. Okay, so let's go with questions, please.
Can you use Second Life to collect your own raw data from these sort of pre-mentioned models? Can you have students or researchers collect their own data in this way? Or do you
Yes.
think more that way? Because what I've seen so far is you in the virtual museum where you're sort of told things, but can you have them collect the data and thus possibly practice research on it?
You're right. No, it's a good question. So it's in this experiment I think that a few percentage was really involved in that because we have the data here. So that was important. That okay, we have the graphic libraries, we have readings, we have pictures, and so we have shared everything with the student. But for example, it was interesting in terms of reconstruction. For example, and a good theme is the Roman architecture. So that a good exercise is the comparison between this villa and some villas in Pompeii, because they have the same kind of infrastructure and decorations and so on. So in that case, for example, it's interesting they are very active in that kind of research. But I agree. So this kind of work is very important, so that we have working with data and searching data and finally uploading data during the experiment and after. So that this is very helpful, and even in other activity, because this is the deal of Livia, but the second activity is in the course Introduction to Old Age, for example, is based on the sense of heritage according to the student. So they have different community, the sense of heritage in terms of course, cultural identity and how we approach cultural heritage in the world. And we have
What is an heritage?
What is heritage? No, because you know that maybe you're aware that we don't have all the statistics done, but most than 60% of students didn't visit a museum, so that they don't know what a museum is. That's a big problem, because when we approach culture, we have to create at least the dictionary before, because we took a museum. So what a museum is, and where is it, the museum, and what kind of communication museum has to approach. It's an example. And even heritage, so we discuss a lot about heritage, because heritage is everything, even in the contemporary society. We're not to think heritage about just the past, but even the present. So I for example, I remember, maybe you can say something much more in detail, experiment on September 11th, so that they did a lot of research on that, and I participated in that session.
Yeah.
It's very interesting for me.
Because I suggest choose an heritage, something that you consider heritage, and try to present, in this case of study, make a presentation about that, or to present this heritage to another community, to European researcher from other. So that case of study was amazing, because the perception that you have here, like United States citizen, is not the same that is outside. It's different, and it's interesting to compare how the people from different areas perceive this. And the debates is very interesting, because at the end my students say, "Oh, I could not believe that the people have this idea." But and that's incredible. I think that's a very good result. So they spend a lot of time also looking for videos, talking with people, and it was possible to reconstruct this, because they say the question was the Twin Towers before was an heritage. Okay, now is an heritage. Tomorrow will be an heritage. So the environment has changed a lot. Now we have ground zero. Before there were the Twin Towers. Do you think was attacked just because was an high tower, or because it represents something for who? Only for US citizens or for the West countries? So what happened to people in other countries? Because I perfectly remember I was in Rome, and everybody were looking the TV. So there was a sensation that the people lived because that case of study touched everybody. So it was very interesting for them too to discover what's happening outside. So the Statue of Liberty, exactly the same. Yeah.
How does this work in terms of what you control on the island and what students control? Do the students then build their own buildings
Yeah.
for their project, indicating what they think of a particular heritage, and then that evaporates at the end of the course, but your buildings stay the same on
We have a library.
We have
We
a library.
save everything.
So you can decide when
Sure.
you want to load or upload or when you don't need it. So that because it's very easy,
It's like a
quick.
theater.
Like you can
You can.
upload and upload or can cancel and re-upload. So that it's a
So if I'm just a person who isn't associated with UC Merced, and but I'm in Second Life, and I fly, can I fly and enter the UC Merced?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
open.
you can.
Heritage Island, and I'm going to see something there that's kind of a permanent exhibit for the Second Life people, but then it changes from.
So it's depend, yeah. We create event, no? This is an advantage because the virtual world is very elastic. What does it mean? It means that we can change the world in order to say something, no? So when the students represent something, we change the environment in order to help them to express better, to better express what they are talking about. So everything is built inside, usually is saved inside the library in Second Life. Not everybody can build something inside. So only who's authorized, of course. And usually the students, for a couple of weeks, they have an avatar. We gave money to the avatar because Second Life you can use real money, and they can buy all the material that they think can be useful for their presentation, upload the material and build something. So what we do is open the access like Builder to the students for a limited time, or if they want, so no problem, because you have to belong. You must be part of the UC Ham Heritage Island. There is a specific group of Builder, and in this way we can manage the information. We can control, of course, the information. We can control the access because there is people from everywhere. You can also invite people, but you can also pass someone just was guessing, and you can stop it. You can invite him, so you can control. You have a good control.
So if you're running a class and someone visits your island, you could just have an unexpected visitor come in and
it's up to you. So you can decide. For
You
example,
can decide to ban it.
Yes. So for example, if you want
It's
to
not nice.
a specific workshop, you want. So in theory, that everywhere we know, and every day we
Yeah.
see that there's an attack, cyber attack against Google or against. In the Second Life, is not. It happens. So, but you can decide. You can save your visitors, and then you can decide just register users are participating in that specific event. Or you want the world, then you can open the world. Of course, the world has no right for destroying anything, just the
Yeah.
right to visualizing, enjoying, flying, talking, everything, but not constructing. Of course, the right for constructing is a little bit risky, so that you have to decide day by day or session by session. Of course, during the training is important.
The students are much more better than us to move inside.
oh,
So I find that
No,
sometimes
you know,
find-
so the new generations are very digital, so that it's much more difficult to explain heritage than explain Second Life. So this is so Second Life. I think is
thank you.
no. You're welcome.
You have a question.
What are the main difficulties if you would like to give a really good presentation in Second Life instead of in a room like this? What are the advantages of that?
You mean in
Yeah.
technical terms or visibility, pub, or
But imagine if the students have to construct a building, I would imagine that to be very time consuming. The question is, if you would like to use it for something, for World Heritage it seems the obvious choice because you have physical objects that you will have to show.
Sure.
But in many other disciplines you don't have these physical objects. Right? So you could use this to have a class where you have classes at 8 p.m. and people don't have full view. And you could have it online, of course, take care of that advantage. The question was the overhead involved and how well do you get the information across? People then just watch and put something else on the side. You have we need some controlling to see how they pay attention.
There is an interesting episode that I had during one of my classes. Of course, you can't always involve people from. So I mean, that's very powerful in terms of community, you know, because you can invite. But it's correct. How it works if we are in a normal. So first of all, you can run in the same space. Different kind of media, no? PowerPoint, movies, in the same moment. So you wanna, you don't want to lose the attention in a PowerPoint, and you can run also movies. You can, but this is not so powerful like aspect. Probably the most powerful aspect is first is the chat, because you are talking, and it's very interesting because at the bottom of the screen they start to chat, so to comment what are you saying. And this is interesting because usually, of course, they comment what are you saying, or they have fun because my English is bad. But but it's no, I mean it's very interesting because they can communicate each other without interrupting class. Because sometimes you say, okay, the question at the end, But in this way, if you are doing a discussion, you can looking what's going on in the cyberspace, that is where you are. You can move your discussion, like a teacher, of course, I'm talking about, under my point of view, where the attention of the guys is going, of the students is going. So it's very dynamic under this point of view. It's very useful. So but I'm talking about my personal experience, of course.
I think that maybe in the question there's also correct me if I'm wrong, but since there's also another interesting point. Your question is how we can create event in Second Life according to different communication output, right? Maybe it's also interesting to discuss this part. It depends you create a public event or not. So that this is the case of public event was organized by the University of Chicago with different virtual session. It's an international workshop with virtual session with different in their island, so that you have different cyberspaces, each one dedicated to a list of speakers. This, for example, is is very cheap, so zero cost, apart the work on constructing the virtual space. And they hosted, I think, 50, 60 speakers in 2 days, coming from all over the world. And of course, they use advertisements in internet and using, of course, the website of the conference and so on. There are also other important events concerning research or other kind of presentation, or virtual museum, for example. So the main problem now is that there are not so many, from my point of view, very interesting places in Second Life. There are a lot of empty cyberspaces, so I'm very disappointed where people say, okay, I'm here, what I have to do? But there are also some successful. One I think was quite successful, the experience of Berkeley in virtual Çatalhöyük. Çatalhöyük is one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world. Excavated from the team of Stanford, so it's very California. But of course, the site is very famous. And they have a calendar of events. So, for example, this is very useful, so that you see, look, okay, I have an event that day. You save the date and you go there, and something happens. So you see people, you can interact, you can ask. So that I think it's important to have avatars and interaction, and I think it's one of the key points when you create an event. Not just, okay, you have the exhibition, you can have the villa, but the villa with instructor, the villa with modelers, or the villa with virtual humans, I think is completely different to have an experience in an empty space with just captions or movies. Because another experience interesting is I teach cyber archaeology in the master online, so that, for example, during the summer I can interact with people from different parts of the world, and this is very, very important because I can hear different questions. Because I assume to put all the information, but it's not true, that there are a lot of mission information, but it's not missing in my point of view. It's missing because cultural diversity, diverse backgrounds, skills, produce new questions. And this is part of the interpretation process. we could pay attention to some details we haven't considered at the beginning of the research, or we can consider some other models we haven't considered at the beginning of the research. We can improve the graphic libraries with other information. We don't assume to have all the data, metadata possible and useful for that kind of experience. So every contribute is, I think, comes from the use of your space.
Okay, last question.
Okay, last question.
No, I just had a quick question. I found like the avatars right now on the screen. Who are they? That's what I was going to ask Nicola. Who were they?
Okay, so it's not.
It's
It's not a fundamental question, Alex. But anyway, so.
Sorry.
Well, let me, sorry. I just want to make sure. So let me just formally end this session. If you have more questions, I'm sure you guys will be around to answer more questions. Thank you for attending. Again, there's a sign-in sheet. If you haven't had a chance to sign in, it would be great if you could, so we can have a record of it. We have another teaching and technology series in 2 weeks on communication tools. And so we hope you can join us. And this video podcast is going to be available on the website as well, so you can tell your friends if they missed it, they can watch it. So thank you again.
Thanks for
very much.
us.